Sheldon Auditorium for Donnybash. We have a fantastic crowd for 2023 Donnybash at the Sheldon Auditorium in beautiful Grand Center. Give it up, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. To the uninitiated, this is our annual fundraiser. It's also our live broadcast, so there is no editing of this tape. The pressure's on the panelists, and here they are. 50% of the Jennifer and Wendy show on the Big 550, KTRS. Give it up for Wendy Wiese.
Thank you.
Donnybrook founder and now with STLtoday.com and the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, Bill McClellan. Donnybrook founder of the Riverfront Times, and you find his column on Substack, Ray Hartmann. And in his sartorial splendor with a brand new suit from the St. Louis American, where he edits the news and writes a great sports column, give it up for Mr. Alvin Reid. We do want to thank our friends at Design Air who make this program possible week in and week out. Are the Gold Camps in the house tonight? Oh, there they are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Speaking of baseball, was there not a Gold Camp who signed with the New York Yankees? Bud, back in the day? The grandfather.
Wow.
All right. Well, Ray, I want to ask you, not about heating and cooling, but about Dot Foods, our first topic tonight. A story that was first broken, I think, by the St. Louis Business Journal, the Dot Foods, local food company, 140 miles north of St. Louis, but they have an office in Chesterfield. This week, they have a convention in downtown St. Louis. They were scheduled to have a convention in St. Louis next year, but they said, no, we're moving to Denver. Among the reasons, crime. And you actually write about that in this week's column on Substack.
Well, first of all, I think it's important to understand that we all know about the horrible accident that occurred a few months ago in which a girl who was here for a volleyball competition was hit and had to have her legs amputated. It was a lot of concern. And a lot of people assumed that this was in reaction to that. What our friends at the Business Journal left out was that the decision to move the show to Denver in 24 and 25 was made fully a year before that happened. So that part was mentioned in the story, but not the fact that the decision, unless they had a crystal ball, they didn't know about this horrible accident. I will say this, it may be politically unpopular. St. Louis, I started the Riverfront Times, I can't believe I'm saying this, but the convention center is 46 years old. I started the Riverfront Times when it was 4 months old, okay? Which is kind of shows what a fossil I am. I mean, if you want to know how old that is, it was before Bill or Charlie came to St. Louis. Alvin was like a toddler, and Wendy wasn't born. I mean, it's a long time ago. Anyway, but I mean, seriously, the point being, in those 46 years, do you know how many serious violent crimes or murders have been involved a convention visitor to St. Louis? Zero. We are justifiably known as the murder capital and tragically known as the murder capital of the nation. We are not at all that, and for all the problems St. Louis has downtown, we are a safe convention city, full stop. You can play.
Okay, let's hear from the other panelists.
First of all, I'd like to recommend a story that'll be in the paper tomorrow by Steph Kuklajan, who goes into some of this history, Ray.
He's a great reporter.
And and her father, a former beat cop.
Great.
But at any rate, we may not have a lot of murders of conventioneers, but the sense of people is that downtown is not safe, and that keeps conventions away. I mean, we just had Sandberg Phoenix, the law firm, move their office from Washington Avenue right across from the convention center further south because they said that they didn't feel personally safe. Now, if you're running the convention center in Nashville or Indianapolis or Memphis, I think that's something that you would use against St. Louis. That, well, the natives don't think downtown is safe, so we can say that, yeah, we're a safe convention city, but I don't think that's the perception.
Yeah, we haven't lost a conventioneer yet is not something I think that we should put on marketing material.
No, I didn't say it was.
Right? I mean, just saying.
My point is
because perception is reality in this climate, in this world of real-time social media. So I think it's terrific that you feel encouraged, but I don't feel quite as encouraged as you.
Well, my take is, okay, everybody's taking shots at St. Louis, and rightfully so. Like you said, other cities trying to get conventions and all that. I get it, okay? But there's this glee in piling on, not from the rest of the United States, but from people here in St. Louis. Business Journal. All right, you want business to come to St. Louis? Hey, let's write a story that leaves out the fact that these people canceled their convention a year ago, not after this, terrible incident. Oh, by the way, we're going to go to Denver, where 9 people got shot within minutes of them winning the, NBA championship. Stuff happens everywhere. I don't think we're alone on that island. And just point that out in your stories as well. And I have to throw in this, too. The coach and some players from the Denver Nuggets at their celebration for the NBA Finals today had T-shirts on with the NBA trophy on it and the words, "Put that in your pipe and smoke it." So you got to love Colorado.
Well, let me say this. The group Greater St. Louis, Inc. came out with a report this week. And it showed that in downtown St. Louis, which is in the 4th district, half of all crimes in the city, or quarter of all crimes are in the 4th district. And 50% of those are in downtown. And in fact, in downtown St. Louis, there are 3,800 crimes per square mile.
Okay.
But the rest of the city, it could be breaking into cars, whatever. The rest of the city is 835. And there are crimes in downtown St. Louis. There's a reason why those Jersey barriers are on all the streets.
Okay.
They're blocking traffic because the streets are lawless.
Can I respond a little to this? First of all, if you read my Substack, not to plug it,
Excessively.
it ends with a lengthy report that was in January in the Denver Fox affiliate on TV, talking about their convention corridor and how much crime it had and how it was up. Every city, I know I've been to probably dozens of trade shows at conventions, and there's 2 things you want to concentrate on. One is don't wear your badge when you leave, going out into town, and the other is walk together in groups. I was talking to a downtown resident, in fact, I'll say it was, Les Sturman today, and I was talking to Les about some stuff, and Les was on our Next Up program. Sure. One of the brightest minds. I was talking about crime. He says, yeah, we weren't even on this subject. He says the time we have less crime is when there's a major convention in town. The problem with downtown, and I'm not arguing that, absolutely, from when I had offices through 1995 in downtown, 17 years at our company with very little, almost none.
That was 30 years ago.
Well, no, wait a minute. But what I'm telling you is, and by the way, in the 80s, Charlie, in the 80s, people were talking about how unsafe downtown
No, that was early 90s.
They were. Yes, they were. I was there defending
Ray,
it.
I walked from the Adams Mark to the KMOX.
I'm just telling you.
I worked downtown, and it felt safe.
It did feel safe.
We had a couple of weeks ago, the Becky Thatcher was out, came in, and the people were afraid to get off the boat.
That's right.
It is less safe than it was because there are not a lot of people out. When you come to a conference and lots of people are here for your conference, people are going to say whatever they want to say about it. And I know I sound defensive. I think we have some issues, and I'd be happy to talk about it.
We have big issues.
We have a lot of issues to defend.
Real quick, let me put it this way. Last year, Denver, and you cited Denver, so did you, had 88 homicides. 88 too many. Population 700,000. We have a population of 286,000. We had 200 homicides.
And they were all in one
Charlie,
area
real
of
quick,
town.
real quick. If you look between 2000 5, I guess, of July, and then to 2/7, the most dangerous municipality in the St. Louis area was Kirkwood, Missouri, okay? Now, it was horrific. It was terrible, but when you start adding up the per capita and how many people got killed and police officers and all that, we were it. So I don't ever look at any individual city and say like, hey, you're paying.
Your die is,
Murder Incorporated.
Your die is cast.
You're right,
Okay.
exactly, because we had a bad
All right,
stretch.
let's move on to another topic. I mean, that's fair. This guy will always defend Kirkwood.
Who's
Boy, that's a fine defense.
No, I mean, but Kirkwood is in great shape now, is it not?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
it is.
was.
Wendy's
That's what I'm saying.
Wendy needs to give him another slogan.
No, it can come back. It can come back.
Regardless of the perception, it always
Okay.
was. So let's do that for St. Louis, too.
How about, we'll go to you, Alvin, while we have you in front of the microphone. Do we need, at the federal prison, a board of aldermen wing now that Brandon Bosley, who's a really nice guy, Brandon Bosley, famous St. Louis name, he has been indicted by the federal government, 3 counts of wire fraud connected to an insurance scam. You know, last year at Donnybash, we were talking about 3 other aldermen who were indicted, and at that time the mayor said, hey, it's just the beginning. You know, there are other names going to come up. Is this the end, or what do you think?
Well, I hope it's the end. Right now, somebody's probably getting arrested. I kind of think that, I read that. I said, now, the undervaluing of the car and all that shenanigans, maybe you could have played that off. Hey, my buddy gave me a deal. He sells cars. He gave me a deal. Whatever. But I do think that conversation he had, and the dude's wired, and he's an informant and all that. But I believe a lot of St. Louisans and a lot of Americans have similar conversations with their auto repair person. Accident happens, my car gets towed there, and you have a conversation with them that basically says like, look, anything you can do to get this car like totaled, that's good, okay? And if I have to get it repaired, I'll get it repaired. But if you can get it totaled and we get it totaled, I'll give you a little taste of that, okay? Now, if you're not an elected official and somebody heard this conversation, I think like, dude, you're walking a fine line, stop. Whereas if you're an elected official, you go to prison. Now, I am not excusing Brandon Bosley, but I am saying like, man, there's a lot of conversations I sure don't want taped in life because they might be looking at me. Like,
but you know, Alvin, I mean, it is just another reminder of how the world has changed. When I think of, I mean, we grew up with really corrupt, I mean, old school corruption, right? Yeah. Where you're talking 800,000, $1 million, $1.5 million. $8,000, that made me kind of sad.
It makes me sad.
I mean, no, I'm not joking. I'm not kidding. That made me kind of sad that times have changed so much that is worthy of a wire. Like
and he lowered the bar because Lewis and Reid and them, they were on the take for $1,100 or something like that, right out of the ATM machine. I'm like, you know, if I'm gonna go corrupt, I'm going to go.
You're going to go corrupt. You're going to go South
I almost said something that was going to set off a whole other argument, but I would just go for more than that.
Yeah, extradition treaties, right?
You know, at some point, people have to quit talking to Mohammed Al-Matan. He's the informant, and you'd think that people would realize that everybody I know who talks to him ends up in prison.
Right.
And you know, I remember when Lewis Reid took that money out of a cash counting machine. Yeah.
Or his
sock
drawer.
Where do you even get cash counting machines?
Right.
You know, I mean, it's at the informant school.
Yeah. Right.
So, well, before you go any further,
and I'm with you. I did not think that what Brandon Bosley did sounded awful to me. I mean, trying to get your mechanic to
You're
sign
ripping off an
on this.
insurance company,
okay,
Bill.
but first of all, I want to ask. I feel like.
But by the way, I don't know who the guest is next week on Next Up, but it's not Mohammed Al-Matan. I'll tell you.
Well,
that.
I was going to ask.
If he is, I'm not talking to him.
Well, I was going to say I think we should, before we go any further, is Mohammed here? Because I don't know if I night. We talked in the upstairs. We met a lot of you.
Hey, you're wearing a wire.
I want to say this. I have a problem with the fact that he didn't just, for Brandon Bosley, who I don't know the young man, I feel bad for him, but he really needed some help with messaging. He didn't say a single word about the weaponization of Merrick Garland's Justice Department. I mean, you know, or hey, I only have a half as many indictments as the last president. Okay.
Wendy Wiese. Okay. I think one of the things.
That's what I was going to say, but I didn't say it.
Yeah. I think many people in St. Louis have a fond recollection of the glory days of Anheuser-Busch when it was based here on Pestalozzi Street for hundreds of years. Of course, it was sold to AB InBev, but still, you have a kind of a connection to the brands. And so, how did you feel this week when it was announced that Bud Light, which for 20 years had been the #1 best-selling beer, is now, at least in terms of dollars, not volume, #2 in the month of May to Modelo Especial?
Well, it just proves to me that older guys are a market force that you just don't want to mess with.
Thank you, Wendy.
Honestly, I've heard many people say that. I mean, everything is cyclical in the marketplace, obviously, and there are going to be other kings of beers. But I still hear people say, people who have traditionally been Bud Light drinkers, who they were incredibly offended by the condescending. It's a lot of the focus has obviously been on the transgender activist and the customized beer can. But I think it was we don't want our old market share. I think that was what did it for a lot of people, especially people in St. Louis who have been beer drinkers.
I think it was just per chance they stopped making the original Michelob Lager. I could find it nowhere. So about a month ago, I started drinking Modelo, and I think they just pushed it over the top. I will say this: with all the talk and all that, if I said like, "Here comes the king, here comes the big #1," you guys all know the next line to that song. So I'm not too panicked about Bud Light or anything like that.
Right.
I think they'll be fine.
It's a moment.
It's a moment. It's a moment.
I think it's the polarization of America in the sense that the beer drinkers tend to be conservatives and the liberals are drinking lattes and wine. I mean, so I mean, I think, I go home and have a glass of red wine.
I think that.
Go home and have a beer. I don't know where you come from.
I think it had a lot. I think it was almost exclusively because of the boycott and that they took a hit. And this is above my pay grade, but generally speaking, when you take the kind of hit to market cap, your stock prices go down and eventually you become a very good stock price, and it's kind of cyclical. So I don't think those kinds of hits are permanent. I don't think, and I'm never one to criticize a boycott. People on my side of the fence, made Chick-fil-A pay for its homophobia for a long time. That's the way it goes. And it was a self-inflicted wound, I thought, in terms of the marketing program, but it was their hearts in the right. I happen to agree with, the folks that, and I'm not going to criticize them for it. I'm guessing if they could do that campaign differently, they might have. But I think it's time for us to stop beating up on the trans community. So I'm fine with it that they did.
But now, Chick-fil-A has a diversity and inclusion officer. So
right, and now I'm sure Eric Schmidt's boycotting Chick-fil-A because they're into diversity and inclusion.
No, it was Uber today. Uber? No, I'm sorry, that was Josh Howard.
All right.
Yeah.
Bill McClellan, I'd like to ask you about a problem that is really basic in the city of St. Louis. Since October of last year, the city has had 60 water mains burst, including a big gusher on 6440 in May. I was actually caught in that traffic. It was crazy how much water was on 6440. So the Board of Aldermen voted today to raise the water rate from $75 to $105 a quarter. They need about $400 million to solve this problem eventually. Right now, there's $37 million federal dollars earmarked for North St. Louis, in what's called the Commercial Corridor Program. Given that you can't really have a business if you don't have water, should they take that $37 million and redirect it to better sewers and pipes underground?
Probably. You know, I feel like deferring to Joe Holloman out here,
gonna say, good.
who on Donnybrook a couple weeks ago, Joe lives in the city, and you asked him if he wanted to pay more to fix the water, and he said, you know, of course I don't want to pay more, but mostly I want the water running.
Right.
And so, you know, wherever they get the money, whether it's taxes or money that they've set aside for something else, that's a problem that they just have to fix immediately.
Are we allowed to get lifelines? Joe, you got a lifeline from
I
Joe?
got a lifeline
No,
from Joe.
It's a little joke. I'll go with Sarah Fensky when they ask me a tough question. No, Joe did explain that quite well. But I disagree very much with your premise that we should disinvest what the mayor's doing very appropriately in the north side. They are not mutually exclusive, okay? And I don't know anything about...
Does money grow on trees?
No, but I do not think that you decide just all of a sudden to take one of the most innovative programs that the mayor is behind in North St. Louis, and that's what you cut.
Well, it might be
It is
innovative, Ray,
it is
but they haven't come up with
I get
the
it, but
formula.
I don't think we
haven't
considered
spent
it
one
far.
penny of this
Okay,
innovative
that's right.
program yet,
But,
right?
And
but
it
if you
isn't-
were, but if you were, technically, you would fix all the mains on the north side, and then what would the south side say?
Yeah.
Well, no,
we ain't gonna have
You
that.
fix the mains in the city.
Yeah, I
Now,
just
let me
don't
ask you
think
this,
it's
though.
that.
Isn't it unfortunate that all we've been hearing about for the last 2.5 years is how St. Louis is flush with cash? We've got the Rams, we've got the COVID funds, and now the people are having to pay through the nose for something.
But ultimately, people in the city have been paying less than the value on their water bills. Okay, so thus you're going to have to
it's a
pay
user
more
tax.
on
No,
your
You
on
want to
your
know,
water bill.
it's even more crazy than that. St. Louis is one of the few cities in the nation that does not have water meters on homes. So you can use as much water as you want as your next door, more than your next door neighbor. He could be on vacation all year. If you have the same frontage and number of bathrooms, you pay the same amount of money.
Right, and people have swimming pools in the city.
Now,
I know,
swimming pools would be
I know.
extra.
So that's crazy.
That's a different issue. That's more of an issue. But the idea that you're going to just randomly take this out of one program and say, oh, here, let's just shift
It's not
it. We
random.
don't- No, what?
It's not random. You said randomly take it.
Well, yeah.
It's purposeful and strategic.
But it has a purpose, though.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
find the money someplace else if you have to.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, if they came to us and said, like, hey, we're going to raise your rate 40%, we'd dig a well in our backyard before we paid that. So, you know, so it's easy for me to say, like, hey, pay it, city. Right.
Wendy, Wiese, I want to ask you about Chicago. I know for a long time you've been advocating better roads to Kansas City, where you have...
Kind of self-serving.
yeah, well, that's good. That's good.
Grandchildren.
But now there's a train, Amtrak, that's going to go to Chicago, and it'll achieve speeds of 110 miles per hour.
Mm-hmm.
It'll get you there in either 4 hours and 50 minutes or 5 hours and 25 minutes, unless it hits a freight train, and then all bets are off.
Correct.
Now, in France, you can get on a train that goes between 186 and 199 miles an hour on the TGV. Should we be proud that our Amtrak is now 30 years behind European trains?
No, but I think that we were all struck by the number of derailments since the beginning of the year. We've had, I believe, 15 national serious derailments since the beginning of the year, and there are usually 1,000 derailments according to NTSB figures in the Wall Street Journal. So absolutely not. When you're and this is it's just happening too much. And I think in a post-COVID world where you have agencies that have limited resources, limited inspectors to go out into the field, I think I will wait and I will drive in the slow lane to Chicago.
Wait a minute. First,
I'm sorry.
Well,
I'm sorry. The clips are everywhere.
I think there have been at least a few car accidents as well in that period of time.
Well, sure,
it's
but
not
not-
like train derailments. I think there's any
32
form of
cars
travel
in a
has
row.
risk. I do not think that, once again, here I am. I'm the crazy guy that thought conventions are safe. Trains are safe. Who would have thought? You got some odds of surviving a plane trip, too. No, I do not think safety's the issue. I'm a little puzzled by it.
What is the issue when a
Well,
train
for me, the
runs
issue
off
is,
the track?
here's the issue to me is math. If Chicago's 300 miles away and they go 110 miles an hour, why does it take 6 hours to get there? That's my question. Otherwise, I think it's a great idea.
Hey, as a guy whose daughter is a proud graduate of Dominican University of Chicago, and she used to catch the train, and I had also done it too many times, even before she was in school there. And, let's get it up to 160. Let's get
Okay.
point
Let's
A,
go. All right.
point B.
Right.
She
And I
stands
doubt you drove 55 miles an hour down to the studio today.
Right. That's right. And I
when
think
they raised the
actually
speed
not.
limit, you say like, oh my God, it's not safe.
60.
Well, I remember when Bernie Sanders was running for president, people said, you don't want to be a socialist country, do you? And I thought, 12 weeks vacation, high-speed rail, and you riot if you have to retire at 65. I mean, so I like high-speed rail.
I think
one time's at least a start.
And I think, look at all the dispensaries that'll go up near the Amtrak train.
That's true, too.
Alvin Reid. We were talking about Joe Howman, who's in the house somewhere. There he is.
There
Joe,
he
good
is.
to see you.
Where's JoJo?
And Sarah Fensky, executive editor, Euclid Media, is also with us. Thank you, Sarah, for joining us. Joe has a story, Alvin, that there's at least one guy, a vigilante, who's taking a look at those temporary tags that are expired, and he's
There he
ripping
is.
them off
He's here.
automobiles. And there's also another story from the Post-Dispatch, I believe, that Calverton Park is now towing cars with expired temporary tags from their private property, from their driveways. What do you think of either of those?
Okay, I'm a big tow guy. We talked about this, But, all right, Calvin Park, why are you doing it? Well, they're probably doing it for a little, just like Brandon Bosley trying to get a little taste, I understand it. I think these are good things. All I would warn you is don't go taking somebody's tag off somebody's car, because the next thing you know, it's going to be a stand your ground thing. And,
That's
hey,
right.
I
That's
saw
right.
somebody trying to steal my car. I shot him. He said, well, he was trying to take off the 2-year expired temporary tag off the back of your car. It doesn't matter. He came in my driveway. So, or her came in my driveway. So, yeah, don't touch other people's stuff. Unless you're a municipality, then tow their car.
Well, the problem is when you tow a car, it sounds great until suddenly the story is about the poor person who can no longer get to work because you've towed their car.
That's right.
And then everybody's down on the municipality or the police. I mean, I don't know what the solution is, but...
I'm not pro-tow. If you've ever had your car towed, it's just the most miserable experience.
I've never had
I
a
just-
car tow.
I have.
Isn't there Hartmann's towing?
Yeah, there is. Spelled the same. And we appreciate your business. No, I wish I did. I even thought maybe, when my car was towed, I'd get a discount because of that. No, they didn't.
Did you try?
Not even a
Wait,
discount.
did you try? Did
I
you go
would
all
have.
Brandon Bosley down at the tow place?
No,
Yeah.
I have nothing to do with
I
it.
would have.
It's a fine company.
I'm a Hartmann. What the hell's going on?
Phil McClellan, what do you think about the Greater St. Louis Inc. Traveling to London, not only to watch the Cardinals match, which is a historic European contest, but also, well, it is. I mean, I don't think the Cardinals have ever played there before, have they? So they'll be, I think, at Wembley Stadium, but also St. Louis leaders will be going to the U.S. Embassy, and they're also going to be heading to seminars conducted by John Rooney. He'll interview Ted Simmons, and he's going to interview Ozzie Smith and Al Roboski, and there will be a lot of business interest from St. Louis in London trying to sell St. Louis.
I think it's a scam. I think that, the people who are running Greater St. Louis Inc., the idea that they need to go to London on somebody else's dime, I mean, have a Zoom meeting if they want to talk to the embassy, or pay their own way. But the idea that this will be good for the community if we go to London and live and live large. I don't like that idea.
I'm happy to hear you say that because that, to me, that's just more honest, that's more authentic. Just to say, hey, we're really proud of our ball team. We're really proud that they're playing in this historic matchup, as Charlie said. But to make it into some kind of a business opportunity is patently ridiculous.
I'm going to follow up because when I saw that, I sent it to everybody, and I just said, like, oh, what, we're going to corner the fish and chips market now? This is bad. This is bad. This is sad. This is a bad commentary on Greater St. Louis, Inc. I'm sorry, but this is a freebie. This is a freebie,
Of course.
and we're going to get wined and dined. And then they're taking some St. Louis products over there, and did they ship them over there FedEx, or are they going to be on the plane with them, or did they buy the oysters from the guy that sold them that killed the guy last week? I just what is going on? This is just bad. And
They're probably taking Bud Light over there.
Bud Light, yeah.
Well,
Could you put out a plank so I could walk it, please? No.
Are you going to defend?
I am. And let me be clear. I don't know who's paying for it. I think Greater St. Louis ought to pay its own way. But as far as, and I know.
That's not out of their own pockets.
Well, I think they should.
We're Greater St. Louis.
No, okay, but I'm saying that the business people should pay for that. I don't think it should be a huge taxpayer expense. It is whether we like it or not, and I've never been on one of these junkets. It's what cities and their leaders tend to do when they are trying to, for example, encourage, first of all, particularly with our image problem, trying to put a positive face on St. Louis, talk about what it has to offer, and in particular push more international routes and some of those kinds of things that have to be done by somebody with one-to-one contact, not over Zoom, not with press releases. Now, am I defending, the overall party? No, but I think that we should be a little more rational about the fact that cities, certainly the convention officials and certainly economic officials have a legitimate reason to try to promote commerce to St. Louis.
Well,
It's a junket, Ray.
I didn't say it wasn't. And I think that the people that
hang on a second. It's not only a junket, but you go over there, you might learn some best practices. I'll give you an example. Steve Butts is a state rep. He's somewhere in our audience, and Steve was in London about 4 months ago, and he tweeted back some photos of how they have 3 police officers walking together down the streets, how they have tons of crews who are picking up litter. Maybe our business leaders will go over there and say, you know what, that's something that we should be doing in St. Louis.
They know that. But they already know that.
They already know that.
Yeah.
Wait, first of all, if they watch Donnybash, we talk about it every week. I mean, they had to go to London.
They know
to do
that.
that?
Alvin's got a good point.
But listen, 3 police officers is better than none.
Right.
I don't think we need to go over there to see what London's doing. It's
you
the sales. No, it's the sales.
I'll give you an example.
We don't need to
I was
go
trying
see
to
what
back you up,
London's
but I
doing.
guess-
they drive on the other side of the street. Maybe we should
No.
go to that. No, I'm just saying we
When
don't
you
need to
go
go see what
elsewhere,
they're
you
doing.
pick up
We need to sell St. Louis to them. The international routes do not sell themselves. I'm sorry, but that's what you
Ray,
try
these
to do.
guys aren't selling international
Yes,
routes.
at least some of them are.
Ray, they're
They're
going
selling the
over there
Cardinals.
I get-
to London
look,
they're
for
selling the
5 to
Cardinals.
6 days
So
of a good time.
the prime
Some of-
minister and I was about to say the queen, the king,
Right.
will watch our Rooney talking to Al Roboski
Yeah, right.
and Ozzie Smith,
No.
and they're sitting up there, and everybody's like, with shrimp as big
I
as
will
your
bet you
head,
there.
man.
I will
Come
bet you
on.
Chicago has officials up there. That's all
I
I'm
bet
saying.
Chicago has officials there too. You know why?
I bet
Because
Chicago has an
Chicago's one of
office
the
there.
biggest cities in the
Well,
Okay.
oh, well, so we should just
All
give
right.
up. Great.
Well, let's see.
Bring me the
We
card.
do it to him. He's sharp until he messes with us.
No, Ray, I want to ask you about booze.
I'm sorry, what?
What? I was the same way.
There are a group of restaurant and bar owners in the city of St. Louis who would like to streamline the way liquor licenses are dispensed. Right now, if you want a liquor license in the city now, you have to get the signatures of neighbors
Right.
who are near that bar.
Yes.
And we know that there's been some crazy commotion in downtown St. Louis surrounding bars recently. And last time I checked, I haven't seen a shortage of bars in the city of St. Louis. But nonetheless,
This, to me, first of all, it's not about how many bars are in the city. It's about, to me, and you talked about Greater St. Louis a lot, there is a virtual civil war going on downtown between the large businesses headed by the Cardinals. I think we might be talking about them a little later, about alcohol. And we've got the Cardinals and the big businesses pitted against the residents. Now, in most communities, there are a couple things people build around for downtowns. One are residents, and whether they are condo owners, business owners, and light rail, which of course we don't want to talk about. But the point is, that's what they build around. We have several things we could be doing downtown, one of which, the last thing is to cut residents out of, say, of bars, liquor licenses. We don't need more liquor licenses downtown, especially. And more important, we've got to stop disrespecting the residents. There's a number of other things. We have too many of these
Airbnbs.
No, let me finish.
No, let's not talk about bread and breakfasts, right?
Well,
We're talking about liquor licenses.
It's part of the whole thing.
My former son-in-law has been trying for over a year to get a liquor license for a restaurant in the Grove, and he's finally getting it, but it has been jumping through hoops, and this idea of disrespecting the residents, it's giving businessmen a little bit of a break.
No, the things we got to do, among other things, is we've got these short-run rentals, the B&Bs, not B&B, what do you call it?
Airbnbs.
Airbnbs, Airbnbs, which are the bane of the existence of hotels.
They have house parties.
And they have house parties. We don't worry about that. There's that one convenience store downtown that almost all the residents and all the business owners want out downtown. I won't mention it, but it's got a nickname. And guess who's keeping them from doing it? The city government, okay? We don't give enough deference to the people
What about
living
liquor
downtown.
licenses, right? We're not talking about Airbnb.
Liquor license, same thing. You don't need to cut them out of the process.
And if Pasta House wanted to open a pasta house with a liquor license in the middle of the homeless park, city would say, bam, you got a liquor license. And so how are you going to tell somebody like this who wants to open in the Grove
right
here
or rather
or there,
Alvin,
this is about
you have to get signatures now. That's one of the big hurdles.
They would get their signatures and they would get their liquor
No, I don't.
license.
Well,
I guarantee.
I don't know if the homeless would sign that.
This is
But see,
not.
this reminds me of
not-
the high-speed rail equation. Until we button up that whole safety part of it, I mean, when you've got the OK Corral during the weekend and on the evenings, is more alcohol, is that the way to go? Even though I know they're probably not going to
No.
restaurants.
Well,
Let's,
the same issue with the car.
let's have prohibition in St. Louis.
No, Wendy's right. You know what, Alvin? The
All
point is,
this is
Wendy's
about
right
letting-
because hang on a second.
Wait, how many
There are-
signatures do I have to get to open up a dispensary?
You'd have to get a lot of them. But here's the thing.
How you know?
For the excise, there aren't enough excise commissioners and employees to oversee these bars, nor there are enough police in the city to monitor the activity and the behavior at the bars.
Gasoline on
Wait,
top of
if
a
you
fire.
want to say,
Can I
like,
say
we
something?
need more alcohol enforcement officers and it pays the salary, please, I'd probably do that.
Alvin.
Right, that's like, no, I won't inspect bars and say like, oh, you get your liquor license. No, you cannot, look, in the real world, people buy drinks. And people want to open up restaurants and bars that sell drinks. And look, that's a reality. And to stop that from happening is to be blind to the fact that that really doesn't have anything to do with crime and people's behavior.
Oh, I think it
all
does.
that.
Yeah,
It just
it
does.
does, yeah.
It just
Here's the
does.
deal. With the Riverfront Times, all these years, we built it on the bar business, okay? I am pro-bar. I think it's fine. There's a difference between wanting bars and liquor licenses, which I didn't mean to suggest we shouldn't have them.
Well-
but to cut the residents out of any say
Ray,
is wrong. They should at least be have input.
Ray. What my former son-in-law had to go through was he got everybody's signatures. There was one woman who was out of the country, and he said, okay, I'll get hers as soon as she gets back. And they said, well, you can have another hearing in like 7 months.
Now, I'm not defending that. This is not the same thing.
This is the sort of thing we're talking about.
Okay,
that's not-
what do you
got it
guys
bad.
think? What do you
It's
think
not-
of the Cardinals deciding to sell beer through the 8th inning now? Because the games are a little shorter, the Cardinals have decided instead of ending earlier, you can buy beer through the 8th inning.
Personally, I would like to see them stop serving beer in the bullpen before the 7th inning. But I think that would be a start.
That's good.
Anyway.
You know, that's
No,
actually,
I would say the same thing.
No,
The Cardinals.
Can I
look
just
at-
jump in here real quickly,
Yeah.
point of order? Rick Ankiel, in his book, talks about how he did drink an entire bottle of vodka while pitching against Randy Johnson, and he won. So maybe the Cardinals need to drink
I can
more
tell you,
beer.
I can remember watching him during the time he was struggling and drinking an entire bottle of vodka afterwards, just to forget what I'd seen.
All right, but how about the
anyway,
Cardinals?
let's be clear. The Cardinals. This is so hypocritical, and it's so simple. It's like everything else. Yes, serving beer late in a ball game does impact the behavior of the people living in the ballpark. I'm not a teetotaler. I'm certainly not into prohibition, but yes, it affects it. And what bothers me about them doing it is they're the same people whining about crime downtown, and yet they're not willing to make the sacrifice. It's always not me. It's not our problem. The business community is the same way. All they want to talk about is other people's problems.
all right.
I'm fine with them
People
cutting it
going
off.
to the ballpark and having a beer in the 6th, the 7th, the 8th inning aren't part of the crime problem in the city of St. Louis.
I didn't say they were.
Don't peg that on me.
I didn't say they were.
All right. It just like the whole, like, okay, you said you weren't going to expand the hours, but then you changed your mind. Now, that's being a tad bit hypocritical, but at the same time, the games are shorter. So, look, I mean, if you want to do that, tell the police chief, do like some stops around the stadium. They'll say, we'll never do that because we'll arrest the wrong people.
It's bad.
Okay.
Right.
But let me ask you, Alvin, you write a sports column, great one for the St. Louis American.
And I drink beer, too.
Yeah, and you drink beer.
So do I.
And I don't even know how you talk to your auto repairman, but I don't want to know. But what about
Never on tape.
Stan Kroenke, the least liked guy in St. Louis? His team, the Denver Nuggets, just won the NBA championship. So now, since he left town, he won the Super Bowl, the Stanley Cup, and now an NBA championship.
Yeah, well, wait, real quick, we can top Rick Ankiel because Doc Ellis pitched a no-hitter. He was on LSD, so right.
I say, hey,
All right, no, more power to him. The man is gone. He trashed us on the way out. But this whole I hate Stan Kroenke thing is juvenile, and we need to move on.
What I really loved about the story on Twitter was the Mizzou faction that was so enraged. You know, they said, this is disloyal. How can you thank, how can you congratulate the Kroenke family for what they did? Don't donate to Mizzou. It reminds me of Animal House, right? Because that was set technically at Mizzou in a fictional Faber college. It's just like Bluto and D-Day had to explain to Flounder with Mr. Kroenke. We messed up. We trusted you,
We did.
right?
Right.
So, I mean, we've just got to let it go.
let me say,
I think it's time to let it go.
I like having a villain. I think
It's nice.
I think there's something healthy about everybody in the city can agree on one thing, and that's Stan Kroenke.
well, let me say,
And so I don't think we should never.
yeah, I was going to say, let me say, I have taken a shocking number of unpopular positions tonight. That plank, I
What else
ain't
is
walking that plank. Kroenke, I don't even want to hear his name. It's to me, I don't want to hear his name. I will say this, I'm a big Miami Heat fan, and I felt that this was just, it was a really sad moment in human history to see Stan. But I will say this, if you want to have any fun at Kroenke's expense, play back the tape of him on mic. It was so cringeworthy to hear him talk to the fans there. It was really something else. I think we should put him behind us.
Well, I remember
I
when
think we should put
Kroenke
him
was
behind
first introduced here.
so
as you know, it's Big Daddy Warbucks, the guy with money who was going to buy a team, and he was so painfully shy. And he said, I'm a private person. And one of the TV guys hollered, "How much you worth, Stan?" And you could just see him go, cringe. I felt sorry for the man.
Yeah, guess what campus Animal House was supposed to be shot on, but the good people of St. Louis decided we can't have that kind of thing here.
Which
it was Washington University.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Is that
Was it
true?
That's
Washington?
true.
Yeah.
The writer went to school. It was a
Well, that was Harold Ramis. Did go to,
Ramis.
He was the
Yeah.
ZBT fraternity, of
Yeah,
course,
and they
on
were going to do it
Forsyth.
here, and like,
Cinnamon.
people said, no, we can't have that kind of carrying on.
That was a highbrow cinema.
Speaking of WashU, do you know who wrote the school's fight song?
Julius Hunter.
That's Harris Stubb.
Oh, I'm wrong. You're right. Right. Paul McCartney?
Do you do it?
Barry Manilow.
Ray?
My dad, Charles Hartmann.
Oh!
In the 50s. At least, I don't know if it's the one they have now. He wrote it in the 50s. And to say that the musical gene skipped a generation is an understatement.
So your dad, Charles Hartmann.
Charles, he had an orchestra, and he wrote the fight. He went to WashU. I was weaned on WashU sports as a kid, and I was very proud of that. But I don't know what their fight song is.
Where did the Hartmann Orchestra play? And did they have a liquor license?
They had a liquor license. I don't know.
Just around the corner, we're going to get to your questions, but we have some people we want to recognize. One is in our viewing audience, Dahlia Busi.
She is not in our viewing audience. She is at home, but she would be here, and we love Dahlia Busi, and we hope she's having a very, very pleasant Donnybash.
Yeah,
She's
for
got
sure.
some family here, right?
Oh, does she?
I think so. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That was Kelly, Abusi, another
And,
Joyce Hayes relative.
Back almost 30 years ago, we talked at length on this program and around the nation, really, about the work of one Margaret Gilio, who lived in Ladue and was doing just fine. She put a sign up, Peace in the Mideast, and it was during the Gulf War. The city of Ladue kept taking it down, and she kept putting it back up, saying it was her constitutional right. She went to the U.S. Supreme Court in February of 1994, and the Ladue lawyers, well, according to the official's transcript, laughter broke out among the justices 12 times, listening to Ladue's arguments, saying that it's okay to have a no trespassing or stay off the lawn sign, but no sign that says peace on earth.
And by the way,
And
I don't
I
remember.
do just want to mention that we lost Margaret Gilio this week.
Right, and she was a hero and an activist, and I am sure, because remember, I don't remember much, but that was a big topic on
Yes.
Donnybrook in the early
It
days
sure
for
was.
us, because it was quite a matter of public attention and good. What a great life
And
she
she
had.
was
What a
not
good
somebody
person she
that you would automatically have believed to have been an activist.
No,
But
she was very low-key.
Very, very low key.
But she was an activist on
Yes, she
everything.
was.
I mean,
Yes,
she
she
wanted
was.
to save the whales, the Dalai Lama. I mean, whatever was
she
up,
was
Margaret was
a good
out
soul.
there.
Well, I had the good fortune of talking to her at her home about 2 years ago, and she told me that she always stayed on excellent terms with Edie Spinks, the then mayor of
mayor,
Ladue,
right.
who opposed her. And in fact, the day in February of 1994 that they were at the Supreme Court, they met in the ladies' room and they helped each other with their hats or their corsages or whatever they were wearing, and they had a nice conversation. And you know, I wish there was more of that these days in the United States.
I agree.
Yep.
I agree 100%.
Well, we have time for your comments and questions. Now, how do we have the first question. Go ahead. Somewhere?
Oh, I see a hand, but I don't.
Oh, we've got the mic.
Who's got the mic? Oh, there we go.
There we are.
I've been listening to Donnybrook watching it since the show first came on. Me and my grandmother would watch it together when I was 12 years old. So that tells you how long this show has been on the air if you look at the white hair in my beard.
Show him your T-shirt.
Yeah, and I got the Donnybrook T-shirt. We got the Donnybrook T-shirt.
Thank you.
Now, here's the time for the tough medicine. Here we go. I represent St. Louis wherever I go in the world. Last year I was in Poland. I went to Ukrainian refugees. I gave them gifts from St. Louis. I said, if you're coming to America, please consider St. Louis. I was in Jerusalem. I was at the Western Wall. I put in 700 home runs for Albert Pujols, so y'all can thank me for the 700. Okay. But we have a problem of being our own worst enemy.
Thank you.
You talk about the convention business downtown. That's a phony story. St. Louis has been a violent city forever, since before my lifetime. And I speak from firsthand experience. In the last several years, my brother-in-law was killed in Soulard. My nephew was killed on the west side of St. Louis. My mother was killed in Kirkwood. So I know how lethal these streets can be in St. Louis. That doesn't mean we can shoot ourselves in the foot. It is not dangerous to come here for a convention.
All right, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your comment. Thank you for joining us.
And we're sorry for your loss.
And I think you've joined us on the Commons, the Galmish Commons, for the live broadcast of the show.
That's right.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Another question.
I think we're over here with Bill.
Oh, over here. Bill from Rock Hill, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, Bill.
Yeah, I'd like to address this to Wendy. You were complaining that 110 miles per hour isn't fast enough. Well, if you want the TVG, you're going to have to be willing to ante up. A large part of the problem is you want to do anything rail in this country, you'll have a bunch of political conservatives calling you a socialist. Now, in Europe, that's not a problem. In Europe, every form of transportation gets its share, but in this country, if it runs on pavement, flies in the air, or floats on the water, you can have all the federal dollars you want. If it's steel wheel on rail, it doesn't matter. If it's high-speed rail, Amtrak, Metrolink, or Loop Trolley, you'll not only have people saying no, they'll call you a socialist for even asking, and are you going to argue trains with a guy dressed like this?
Thank you, Bill. Thank you so much. Absolutely.
Charlie over here.
This is great. I love it. You guys are wonderful. My wife loves you so much. It's great. But anyway, on a lighter note, I like to know, I think everybody wants to know, do all you guys really like each other?
Yeah,
Yes, it's hard to believe. You know, Bill and Ray have been working together since 1987. I joined in 92. What year? Part-time, 92.
2003.
2003.
Every week since 2010, but the first time I was on, I always know this because my youngest daughter is 22, and the first time I was ever on the show, she was 3 days old. So
Yeah.
it's easy to remember, right?
And then just before every Donnybash, we have a little kumbaya moment in the green room back there, and we say how much we enjoy working with you.
we are a
I said,
family.
like, hey, we love each other.
We're a family.
We really do. And we're a family.
And to Alvin's point, this may be a dated reference, but at our best, we emulate a spirited family dinner time argument. No, I'm serious, a discussion at dinner. And unfortunately, that seems more and more to be a thing of the past in our world. And so, yeah, we are a family.
Oh, you know what? When you say it's like a dinner time discussion, my wife, Mary, knows everybody here, and she likes Ray particularly. And sometimes she says to me, "Why do you argue with Ray so much?" And I say, "Honey, it's like when the kids were little at dinner. They start, and then they just push it and push it, and I have to say, stop it."
He's like a father figure.
I probably should. I'll be honest. There was a period of 3 years when I didn't talk to Ray. I didn't think it was right to interrupt him.
I like that. That's a good one. That's very good. I resemble that remark.
Yeah.
I have 3 quick question comments, 2 related to Chicago. We were just in Chicago 2 weeks ago. My son moved up there. Walked around Chicago, high crime, totally crowded streets, never felt out of place. It was just wonderful, whereas St. Louis, we just can't seem to understand. Get some business down here, have some people down here. Like you said, when conventions are here, everything's great. Loved the train. We took the train back, 120 miles an hour. Felt great, loved it. Charlie, have you ever considered putting a time limit on responses? Ray, I was just wondering. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Who's next? This is Gig Gwynn of Gwynn Travel. He's been to every country in the world.
One of the futures of train travel will be tube travel. Underground railroads that can go 300 miles an hour, but they're very safe because they have a tube or a section around them. And look for that in the future. Unfortunately, it's expensive. But the one thing that the Chinese and Japanese have found is, you know, when you have an airplane and you fill it with 200 people, that's all you can take. But if you have a train, you can add on cars and take 2,000 people. So tube travel is really a possibility in the next 10 years.
I tell you, see?
Thank you, Gig.
I tell you, I'm the tube guy. tube guy.
I think tubes are great. It's just
The
they get
tube just started at the Kirkwood train station. Shouldn't it?
Do we have another question from the audience? Oh, we do in this second, third row back here somewhere. Or you already got somebody? Right over here. Raise your hand high.
Got a microphone?
Phil Donahue, got to get over to the microphone over
No,
here.
I think we're going up here.
Oh,
We're going up here.
I'm so sorry if I missed your debate on COVID relief funds. Right now, the unused funds are sitting in a bank, earning 5 to 7%. Should that be returned to the federal government? Have you guys debated this? And could you spend a moment debating it for me, please?
I need my house painted. So, you can float something that way, actually. It's in the city. No, it's our money, and we just have to decide how to spend it and when to spend it. But it's ours, and it'll do good eventually.
I wish they were moving faster, but no. I mean, we, as Alvin says, it's, I agree. I think it should be spent faster, but not spending it too fast would be worse than not spending it with the right kind of safeguards.
Agreed.
So I think it's easy from afar to criticize it.
how do we know the politicians aren't waiting for an election year to spend that money?
Well, as long as it gets spent, it gets spent wisely.
Not in the city. That is.
By the way, that's next year's.
That's not happening.
That wouldn't happen in our city.
No.
I think time for one more question from Evie. This
Who's she?
young, lovely woman is the granddaughter of Bill McClellan.
Hello? Okay. Where do you get the best milkshakes?
Where do you get the best milkshakes?
Coach.
Well, I think, Evie, you know what I feel. Crown Candy Kitchen has the best milkshake.
Hard to beat that, but Ted Drews, he does a pretty good job.
I can't speak for the rest of the menu anymore, but Steak and Shake still makes a bomb vanilla shake. Let me tell you.
Don't forget clementines. Don't forget clementines.
Clementines?
Yes, indeedy.
I'm not arguing with Evie. We ought to thank this audience.
Yes, thank you so much. Why didn't I think of that? Thank you very much for joining us. Hope to see you at next year's Donnybash. Have a great night.
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS.